He won the Wake congressional race in 2024.
State House.
Excuse me, State House. Oh, I corrected it in the wrong one. He has hit the ground running, and in the 2025 session, he introduced two key bills, HB 192, which raises teacher compensation to make them more competitive, and the REINS Act, REINS, which aims to hold government accountable, which is one thing we're all for here. He's a strong, results-driven advocate for conservatives. Ladies and gentlemen, Mike.
First thing, I hope nobody minds if I stand down here, because I will pace like a caged rabid animal up here when I stand there. I know myself too well. The second thing is, don't put me in Congress, please. I can't handle that circus in DC, and Raleigh has plenty of excitement for me. Having said those two things, I appreciate you all allowing me to have some time here to talk today, give you a little bit of a legislative update. While I'm here, let me encourage you to first go to my website on the legislature webpage, okay? As well as Aaron Perez. If you're not already signed up for our legislative updates, we do weekly newsletters and monthly newsletters to let you all know what's going on, what's coming down the pike, where we are in our districts and around the state. My lovely wife puts mine together because I am hopelessly inept as a millennial at dealing with anything having to do with technology. I'll never understand why, out of everybody in my generation, I was the one that did not get bitten by the technology bug, but here we are. I'm still an Android user. Please forgive me. That's right. Hey, thank you. Some of my house colleagues are just the most insufferable iPhone users you could possibly imagine. Sorry that you can't send me a PDF through text message. You're just going to have to email it the old-fashioned way. Anyway, so when I campaigned last year, you might remember we flipped a very competitive House seat in northern Wake County. I represent Wake Forest, Rollsville, and the area around Falls Lake. It was an R+3 seat. Democrats now love to say that it was gerrymandered and that was the only reason that I won. I say if it was gerrymandered, spending $1.5 million on a House race is a really funny way to show that you don't think it's competitive. But they did spend $1.5 million. They outspent us 2-1. They paid 150 door knockers to go out the weekend before the election, and they paid a lot of door knockers from March all the way through November to go out and try to win that seat. We went out with our team of volunteers. We raised about half as much money as they did between the caucus and me. I can't take credit for all of that money that they raised. And you know, with just a little grassroots effort, a lot of prayer, and a lot of just talking to neighbors, we won that seat by about 1,800 votes in November. Now, when I campaigned really on 3 primary planks in my platform. The first thing that we told people is, we want to make government accountable for these cost increases that you're feeling. As they take a bite out of your paycheck, we want to make sure that we are doing things to roll those regulations back, to make sure that we are taking care of you, taking care of your family, restoring your buying power. Inflation's largely a federal issue. I can't stop the Federal Reserve from printing money. I can't do anything about the interest rates. But what I can do is make sure that the products that are being brought to market, they're being brought to market as cheaply as possible without sacrificing consumer protections. So we can roll back some of that. We've done that now in the House. Last week we passed, or 2 weeks ago now, sorry, we were on Easter break last week. We passed the REINS Act, which Lou mentioned just a second ago. The REINS Act, REINS, stands for Regulations of the Executive in Need of Scrutiny. You hear? This was an initiative that Americans for Prosperity had been pushing. Alan Chesser, who represents Nash County, who's one of the only two, there are only 2 Republicans who had closer races than mine in the House who won. Okay, and Alan Chesser was one of them up in Nash County, won a Democrat seat up there, a D+2 seat. The guy's an absolute warrior, so I would encourage you to sign up for his legislative updates too and follow what he's doing, because he's an animal in the best way. I mean, not like me, the pacing sort of nervous animal. He's a dogged worker. So anyway, the RAINS Act, which I was a proud sponsor of, and I argued on behalf of the bill on the floor. What it does is it takes any bill, or any regulation rather, that goes through any administrative body in North Carolina. And if statewide, the impact of that bill is going to be more than $1 million. Whether that's, 10 million transactions that are all a dime more expensive, right? It's an environmental regulation that's going to make building houses more expensive. It could be just about anything, okay? If it's going to have more than $1 million impact, then the legislature has the right to file legislation and stop it immediately. We don't have to go through our rules that say you can only file bills at certain times. We can jump out and immediately step on the gas to block that. And so we're hoping that's what. Thank you. The hope here is twofold. One, as we said on the campaign trail, roll back prices. Make sure that we're restoring people's buying power. Protect you from an overactive administrative state that, by and large, most people are not elected in there. We got a few folks in the Council of State, but you don't elect the Secretary of the Department of Environmental Quality, and you certainly don't elect the bureaucrats and the experts that they have in there who are passing these regulations. So we want to hold them accountable, and the way we do that is by saying, hey, we got to put this on somebody elected's head. So blame us. If a bad rule gets through, blame the legislature. Blame it on us. We'll take the heat for that, because somebody ultimately has to. You have the right to call somebody out for that. And so that's what the RAINS Act does. The second thing I talked about on the campaign trail was education. We've done really great things in terms of expanding school choice, making sure opportunity scholarships give children from all income brackets an opportunity to be successful, an opportunity to go seek out education that meets their needs. There's a lot more work to be done. I have a bill that's coming up in K-12 this week that will require all 115 of our public school districts to allow intra-district transfers. I believe we already have that in Wake County, but we're going to make sure that every single district has it, because I think right now it's somewhere about half of them currently have some sort of a policy in place. If your child's trapped in a bad situation, you want to keep them in public school for some reason, maybe it's because you need access to a bus, whatever it might be, you deserve the opportunity to make sure you find a solution that works for your child or your grandchild. So that's one, and then Lou also mentioned House Bill 192, where we are aiming to raise teacher pay. Please, welcome teachers. About 15 years ago, I was a music education student at UNCG. I'd gone back to school to get a second undergraduate degree. I had a performance degree in trumpet performance. And I graduated in December of 2008. Let me tell you about the economy and how great that was for music majors. My first job, I got a little aside, my first job out of college, if you want legislators who come from humble beginnings, my first job out of college, I couldn't even get an interview at a restaurant. I had to dress up like the Statue of Liberty and flip a sign on the side of the road for Liberty Tax Services in Syracuse, New York, where the temperature was about 9 degrees daily. So, just a little fun aside. But I went to school with a lot of really ambitious, idealistic music education majors. Some of them agree with me politically, many of them don't. Doesn't matter. The fact of the matter is that they were in it for the right reasons. And now many of them are former teachers. Most of them, especially the best ones, are former teachers. My brother went and played football at University of North Carolina, Pembroke. And he got his education degree, he went into teaching. And he didn't just want to teach, guys. He went into some of the more difficult school districts in the state and said, I want to work with these kids. He took a job at South Robinson, coaching football and working with some of the remedial students. And he'd tell me, I got this kid on my football team who's sleeping in an abandoned car 3 or 4 days a week. And he's staying with a cousin the other days during the week. But he loved working with kids like that, because that was the background that we came from, where we were living in the poverty line, but thank God we had an engaged father who was there for us. But a lot of these kids don't have that. My brother was that for them. He loved going to them and saying, you know, if you just stay on the straight and narrow, keep showing up to play football, keep showing up for Coach Schietzelt. You finish high school and you'll find that you have a lot more control over your life where you can get over that hump. He loved encouraging these kids. And unfortunately, he's also now a former teacher. Because it's just too difficult. It's too difficult to break up the fights and work in these old, dilapidated buildings with kids who are constantly distracted by having their cell phones around, kids who are filming everything that's going on. And at the end of the day, you're doing it for what, $40,000 a year? And so we threw down a marker with House Bill 192. We said we want to raise starting teacher pay to $50,000. And I've heard some pushback from people saying, well, you know, we got all of these ideologues in the classroom. Why do you want to reward them with that? It's not about rewarding them. It's about attracting quality talent into the classroom, people who are not there. Because, listen, if you keep making the situation worse, you keep politicizing the classroom, who are you going to get to teach? You're going to get the people who aren't in it for the money, they're in it for the political reasons. And so we've got to start working on recruiting and retaining quality educators for our classrooms. That's how we're going to get the results in the classroom. That's how we're going to get the results for our students. And I'm proud to work with Erin Perret and Tricia Collum on that bill. So if you see Erin, please tell her thank you. This was her baby, and I was glad to be a part of it. And then one last thing really quickly, because I mentioned three things. So I mentioned bringing down prices, restoring buying power. I mentioned education. And then finally, transportation infrastructures. I don't know what it's like down here, but I know it's a huge deal in Wake Forest, Rollsville, and all points north of Raleigh. Right now they're talking about putting tolls on Capitol Boulevard to require you to travel from between 540 and the Franklin County line. Let me tell you something, that road's been there for 110 years. 1915, the Atlantic Coast Highway opened up, and now they're going to start charging people to drive on it. I'm sorry, I'm not interested in allowing that to happen. I'm not interested in rewarding the state with the insane economic growth that's going to happen when we finally do get Capitol Boulevard taken care of. We're going to reward the state for 20 years of inaction? There's a 2006 study out there that says Capitol Boulevard is over capacity, it's a safety issue, it's an environmental hazard. And they've sat on that since 2006. In 2006, I had an iPod video. It was my fresh new piece of technology, right? It's obsolete now, but Capitol Boulevard hasn't changed. What are we doing? So we've got to start getting the investment in our transportation infrastructure. We've got all this growth, and growth is a good thing. But growth is a good thing only if you can get corresponding investments in infrastructure. Otherwise, you're just creating gridlock and making people miserable, and it feels like your neighborhoods are getting pillaged by developers. Nobody wants to feel that way. So I'm pushing hard for my district to make sure that we can get some money, that we can get some action from DOT, because the people who live up there and have to put up with that every day deserve it. The Wake Forest population has tripled since 2006, but Capitol Boulevard hasn't changed. So we're fighting on behalf of that, and that is how we intend to keep fighting into 2026 and make sure that this competitive seat is a little bit less competitive next year. So with that, I got one last thing that I want to say that is not necessarily related to a legislative update. If you're running for a local office, I know we got one municipal, please raise your hand really quickly just so I can see if you're planning on running for a municipal race. So I've got four over here, and then Mary over here. I want you to look around at these people. Put your hand up one more time really quickly. I know a lot of folks know who you are, but it is a bold step to put your name on a ballot. And I'm going to tell you something really quickly because I've heard a couple of guests come up and talk about trying to raise money. When you decide you're going to put your name on a ballot, a lot of people step up and say, I want to help you with this, I want to do that. Let me tell you how many people follow through. It's shockingly few. I have never felt as simultaneously engaged and as lonely as I felt on the campaign trail last year. Sometimes it would be you go out, you spend all week trying to round up volunteers, and you get two people to come out, one of them's your parent or a family member, to go out and knock doors. You spend all week acting like a telemarketer trying to raise money, and people are hanging up on you, and calling you nasty names. You don't feel particularly good about it. You get to the end of the week, you feel hollowed out, like somebody scooped out all of the marrow out of your bones, and you got nothing left. So I want to encourage you, don't wait until next year. Start to support these people now. Open up your checkbooks, get on their website, donate $10 a month. You have no idea what a morale boost it is to get that $10 donation from somebody. It means something. Okay? You don't have to give somebody $6,800. If you got $6,800 to give, please give it. But you don't have to do that to make a difference. It's one thing to raise the money, it's another thing just to know that you've got the support of your community and your club. So please support these people. Thank you all so much for your time today. I didn't intend to use all 15 minutes, but here we are. Thank you.